Hello all. Um, it's been a long time since I made a video. If you're watching on YouTube, and if you're coming from Substack, this is my first video. So welcome to you guys if you're joining me there. And today I just wanted to make a video on the NBA Finals, or no, not the NBA Finals, but sorry, who I think the big winners are of the NBA offseason thus far. And so I'm just going to start with the Hawks. I think the Hawks are really poised to honestly be championship contenders. I mean, the East is wide open. If you look at the Celtics, obviously Jason Tatum is hurt, and it looks like we're tanking next season. I'm a Celtics fan if you didn't know. And then for the Pacers, Halliburton is hurt. They just lost Miles Turner. It's going to be more difficult for them. The Knicks don't even have a coach right now, and honestly, I wasn't even that high on them last year. So I think it's basically wide open. Obviously, Dame was also hurt, but the Bucks just waived him. They also just lost Brook Lopez. So I think in a wide open East, the Hawks and the next team that I'm going to get into are definitely poised to potentially make the finals. Definitely are going to go very far. And I think this is great because I think Trae Young is honestly, people always talk about the Trae Young-Luka trade on draft day a couple years back. And honestly, you can't fault the Hawks for making that trade. I think Luka's probably the better player, but Trae Young is almost just as talented. He's just short. When you look at his playmaking, you look at his scoring ability, he's an amazing player to watch. And I think he just hasn't really been put in the position to be successful, but I think that's changing. So getting into what they've done, I mean, they got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They signed him. Great 3-and-D wing. Can defend, can shoot, something that they need. I think once, what's his name? Let me figure out his name so I can, sorry guys. Jalen Johnson. I think he was injured this season, but he's about to be back. So yeah, I think once they get him again, he's going to be back. They're going to have Nickeil Alexander-Walker as well, who, again, I think he was very crucial, very instrumental to the Timberwolves' success. You already have Dyson Daniels, who's a great defender, and you definitely need a lot of defenders because you have Trae Young. You got Dyson Daniels. Reece Shea is a pretty good defender. He was a pretty good pick as well. I think he was Rookie of the Year. And now you got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who could defend and shoot. Then you add Porzingis to that. I'm a huge Porzingis guy as a Celtic fan. I know we had to trade him ultimately because of the second apron. We had to dump off the salary, and I think it was a shame this past playoffs that he had that mysterious injury that illness that none of us knew what it was. But I think that he is going to, or I hope he's going to be back. When you go in the future, I hope he's going to be back for the Hawks, just so that they could be successful. Also, just because he deserves it. I think when he was healthy, the Celtics were unbeatable. And I think because he often wasn't healthy, that's not remembered, and he doesn't get enough respect. But I'm glad. Also, he can shoot, but he's also a lob threat. And Trae Young thrives with lob threats, and he can also protect the rim. You also add to that Dorian Finney-Smith, another 3-and-D player. It was actually hilarious because what's his name? What's the guy? The Lakers, Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka was apparently trying to talk to teams around the league, telling them that Dorian Finney-Smith had a knee issue or that he was injured essentially, to lower his stock so that it'd be cheaper to re-sign him. And then his agent, Dorian Finney-Smith, found out, and they ended up not signing with him, which I thought was hilarious. So, Yeah, they got Dorian Finney-Smith too. So you got a lot of 3-and-D wings, which is really the recipe for success. I'm probably going to make a video or an article about how nowadays you can't really have anyone who you know, you can't really carry anybody. You need to have players who can defend, and if they can't defend, they have to be a really, really great offensive threat. And I think that's also similar in soccer nowadays. But side point, that's a side point. And then you got Kennard. I love Luke Kennard. He can handle the ball. He's a sniper. He's just a sniper. So you add a sniper and then some 3-and-D wings and Porzingis. You already got Jalen Johnson, Risache, Onyeka Okongwu, probably a backup now. Like, they got pieces. I think the Hawks could go to the finals. Next, I want to talk about the Magic. I'm actually super high on the Magic. If you ask me, Banchero is a young LeBron, except he was more skilled than LeBron was at that age, but obviously not as athletic. But when I was watching the playoffs, when I was watching Magic versus Celtics, he was scary. He was honestly a scary sight. And the Magic would have finished higher if it hadn't been for, in the regular season, if it hadn't been for injuries to Wagner and Banchero. And now I think they're really trying to go all in on this team and trying to win now. You saw that they were trying to, or that they traded for Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane, in my opinion, is an amazing player. He can defend. He has short arms, which is kind of funny. T-Rex arms, as people like to say, but he's got short arms, but he can really defend, and he's also a sniper, and he's someone who could give you 20 points a game. When you got Banchero, when you got Wagner, you need shooters around them. I think that was one of the problems. They didn't have that much shooting around them, but now they have another. This is a legitimate big three. You got a player who can give you 20 points on any given night, 30 on any given night, on top of Banchero and on top of Wagner, and then you still got Cole Anthony. You still got Wendell Carter Jr. You still got Jonathan Isaac, even though I forgot who it was, but I saw they were trying to trade him for someone. But then you get Tyus Jones too. Tyus Jones was huge for the Suns in a time when they didn't have any real point guards. He would come in, he'd make the right play. He could also score a bit. He's just a great player. He probably won't start. He'll probably come off the bench, because I really like what Jalen Suggs has defensively. Also, offensively, I think he's underrated. But if you remember him on Gonzaga, you know what he's got. So obviously, yeah, Tyus Jones as well. You got some extra playmaking off the bench. A good point guard, a great point guard off the bench in Tyus Jones. I think, you got to respect that. That only helps them. And I think Wagner's about to get a massive extension too, which is a huge W for them. So I think the Magic, honestly, are really poised to be a top 3 seed in the East next year and potentially make the finals. I think Banchero, I don't know who can guard Banchero. Then you add Wagner to that, you add Bane. I think it's going to be very scary, if you want me to be honest. Now, going on to the Western Conference, I wanted to do 2 Eastern Conference, 2 Western Conference. I think the Rockets are major winners right now in the offseason. I think they are probably, right now, they're my favorite to make it to the finals from the West. But obviously more things can happen. The Lakers just got a new owner, so they're probably going to spend a lot of money. Even though LeBron, I'm going to make a video on LeBron, but LeBron opted into that fat extension. I don't know how much flexibility they're going to have given that, but the Lakers, you always got to worry about them. The Mavericks, I think if they're fully healthy, if Kyrie's back to his best by the playoffs, they're fully healthy. Obviously, they have Cooper if he does well, if AD is doing well, if Derek Lively's back to his best. He kind of fell off a little bit last year, but he was injured. Klay Thompson's playing well. They signed D'Angelo Russell as well, who to be there until Kyrie's there, and then he's coming off the bench. They still have Dinwiddie. They're really stacked, honestly. I think they're going to go really far. And I thought they were going to go to the finals this past year after the trade. Everyone, was laughing at Nico Harrison, but I saw the vision. But I'm getting sidetracked. As you can see, I'm passionate. But the Rockets, I think they're probably gonna go to the finals as it stands right now. I think they already were super close to the Thunder, a super young team, obviously, but their coach, Ime Udoka, he used to coach the Celtics. He went to the finals with us. He's a defense-oriented coach. You already know the defense is going to be elite, and it has been elite. They lost Dylan Brooks, which is a bit of a shame in the KD trade. That's the first thing I'm going to mention. They lost Dylan Brooks. They lost Jalen Green, but Jalen Green didn't score over 10, I think, in any of the games in the playoffs in the round against the Warriors. So I think you had to get rid of him. He hasn't made the progress that you would have wanted to see at this point in his career. And honestly, I just never really liked him that much as a player. I understand KD only has a couple years, but it's KD. He's 50, 40, 90. He fits in any system. You need a bucket. They had defenders. They got Şengün, who's like a baby Jokic, who's going to get, if you set up the team around him, he's going to get everyone their buckets, and he's going to score as well. He's a player that I'm super high on, but you needed a bucket getter. That's what really hurt them, and because Jalen Green wasn't that. You give up Dylan Brooks, who I feel like the Grizzlies have suffered ever since they lost him, because defensively and just identity-wise, he's huge for a franchise, but I think they get KD, and it's KD, so what can we really say about that? And then that alone already had me thinking, all right, this team is gonna make it to the finals, because obviously they still have Amin Thompson. They re-signed Fred VanVleet also, which I should mention. That's a pretty big, championship winning point guard. Obviously he was huge for the Raptors during that run. So I think it's important, obviously, that they signed VanVleet also. They got a point guard. They got Amin Thompson. They have depth. They have Cam Whitmore. I saw someone who's saying Cam Whitmore is basically Jalen Green, but he's got the body too, and he's got more of that defensive potential. So you still have Cam Whitmore. You still got Jabari Smith Jr. They just signed him to an extension. I'm huge on him too. He can shoot. He's long. He can defend probably 1 through 5. He has the potential to defend 1 through 5. He can shoot. I think his offensive game has still even more ways to go, more potential. So I'm huge on that. And then, so then last year, though, what they started doing, they had Steven Adams. And also, that's another thing I was going to mention. They re-signed Steven Adams. And Steven Adams was crucial to their success because they were able to run this 5-man lineup with a lot of length. They were able to run Şengün and Adams, and they were able to get so many, I think Adams got so many offensive boards, but also just the defensive presence that he brought, just having those bigs there. And they brought him back. I don't think he's going to start, but this is a perfect segue into the last move that I wanted to talk about from the Rockets. They brought Capella back. Bringing Capella back, I loved Capella when he was on the Rockets. Obviously, with Harden, he cooked. He always was dunking the lobs, but he's really mainly a defensive guy. You know Ime Udoka is a defensive-minded coach, and you know that he's going to love a Clint Capella. Now, instead of Adams, because Adams is kind of old, Capella is getting older too, but you can have Capella running the 5 in the starting lineup if you really want to go for that defense. Their defense is going to be elite. And then obviously, if you have an elite defense, if you ask me, for the Suns, the main issue was their defense was so awful and they didn't have a point guard. Whenever KD played, they still had an over 500 record despite the poor roster construction. But obviously their defense is so poor. Now you have an elite defense, and you got KD, you got all these youngins, and you got depth throughout the roster. And now Capella can be that guy defensively and get those offensive boards. I think it's going to be huge for the Rockets, and I honestly think they're going to make the finals. That's my early prediction, though. And then I got to go to the Pelicans. The Pelicans are a team that frustrates me because I'm always high on the Pelicans. I always want to believe in the Pelicans because Zion Williamson, he's just so talented. Like, he came into the league, I'm pretty sure second year he was an all-star. If he played enough games first year, he may have been an all-star first year. I think his talent is just undeniable. Like, there's nothing, I mean, it's Zion. Like, he's so good. Him and Ja, to me, are just like, their athleticism and his finish. It's just, I love Zion. I think he's one of the best. It's really a shame that injuries have plagued his career, because we'd be looking at a potential Hall of Famer. Probably would have made a lot of further playoff runs if he was healthy. And so, you know how I feel about Zion. And I just feel like Zion, even though, okay, to be fair, they've had Brandon Ingram, they got the McCollum. Even though it's mainly because of injuries, he also never has fully had the resources in a Western Conference that has been pretty stacked recently to go far. But now I think the Pelicans are getting serious. They're really going in for it. They got Looney. Looney's not the biggest move, but I'm just going to bring up Looney first. I think Looney's huge. You get a big who's, I mean, the Warriors are going to miss him. He's robust. He's going to get the boards. He's just a big body. He's going to hustle. I just love Looney. I think as your starting five, I think that's pretty respectable. Hopefully he just stays healthy and then is a mentor for the player who I'm going to bring up. But Jordan Poole, they got Jordan Poole too. And they gave up McCollum and I forgot what else, but McCollum, I was not a huge fan at this point. He's old. Poole, I'm also not that big of a fan because of the defensive side, and just because I think when he went to the Wizards, it was just like his time to mess around type thing, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But Poole's undeniably a bucket. He's gonna get you a bucket. He's gonna score. He's gonna space the floor. He's gonna make it exciting. He's gonna make your team exciting to watch. So Poole, that's I mean, you got Poole, you got Zion, you got Trey Murphy, you got what's his name, Herb Jones. So you got Trey Murphy, who's also a sniper and great defensive player, huge upside. You also got Herb Jones, who's also a great defender. You got Poole, and then you got Zion, and you got Looney. And then on top of that, they brought in Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey is also a sniper. Don't get it twisted. I think people may have forgotten about Sadiq Bey, but he's a sniper. He can low-key average. I don't think he will average 20, but he's a player who could low-key average 20 on your team. And he's a good defender, pretty good defender. I'm not going to say elite, but he's a pretty good defender, and he's a sniper. I mean, to add that to Zion, Herb, you heard everything that I said. I think is insane. And then you go into their draft picks. I don't think I've talked about many draft picks in this video thus far, but they got Derek Queen from Maryland, my boy. Shout out my boy Arnav, who goes to UMD. He showed us a video of Derek Queen earlier this season, and I was pretty impressed. I mean, people say baby Jokic, American Jokic, and I don't know if he's quite Jokic, but he's dynamic. I mean, he gets boards, offensive boards. He's a big body. He's going to score the basket in the post in an elite way. I think he has huge potential. He could honestly be a very, very great player in the future, and I think Kevon Looney is a perfect player to be an understudy for. Not too much pressure, just gives him time to settle in. And I think he could be amazing. And then you got Fears. Fears, his handle is gross. He can score. He can facilitate. He's not going to have much pressure. He's going to be coming off the bench. I think there's also a huge upside player. So they're also deep. I wouldn't be surprised if the Pelicans really shock people this year and go, I'm going to say, just out of the play-in, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're a play-in team. But just out of the play-in. If Zion can stay healthy, I think that's a dangerous team. So yeah, let me know what you think. If there are any teams that I missed, and yeah, let me know if there are any other videos you want me to make. But yeah, I've enjoyed making this and hope to make more videos and articles. Follow my Substack soon, or subscribe rather to my Substack, and then also subscribe to my YouTube. But yeah, let me know if there are any other videos you want me to make. Let me know what you thought of this video. I need feedback so I can make better videos for you guys. And yeah, thank you.